So as a general rule, Zach nor I are big fans of selling watches. You can ask both of our wives, they would definitely confirm that is true. But we did come up with a list of 7 different times or situations where selling a watch may be your best option. So Zach, why don't you start us off?
Sure. So, starting out, one that I see from time to time as an authorized dealer is we need to create some cash flow. Wife got laid off, car broke down. They made the mistake of owning a Land Rover outside of warranty.
We've all
Something
been
like
there.
that. Um, Unfortunately, we both have. But something along those lines, and we need to generate some income. So while that is something that you can definitely do. I will just say I hear a lot of stories from clients who come in talking about, fell on hard times, I had to sell this watch. Here they are today buying the same watch again, except now it costs considerably more than it did, 10, 15 years ago. And, we get into hard times, we got to do what we got to do. But if you can find another way, I would say find another way.
Zach, that's one of those situations where I think everyone that has had to do that has regretted it.
Mm-hmm.
Because the sole reason why they're selling the watch is because they have to have this other emergency
Yep.
taken care of. So moving from there, we're going to get to a little bit better reason of selling a watch that may not be as emotional, and that's if you're chasing another watch. So you've had a watch for a while, maybe you've fallen out of love with it. I think that's happened to everybody. Maybe it just didn't fit exactly into your plan that you thought it would, or maybe it didn't scratch the itch that you thought it would. And that's when you sell a watch to fund another watch. So for number 2, that's what we put down. Maybe you're chasing your grail watch, or maybe you started out thinking, hey, I want a dive watch. I'm going to buy $500 dive watch just to see if I wear it. Turns out you fall in love with the idea of a dive watch, but you're really wanting a little bit better quality, a little bit different feel, a different finish. And so you sell that for a few $100s to put it towards buying a higher end dive watch in that example. It happens a lot in dress watches, I think, probably more than anything. So that's our number 2, to fund another watch. So moving into number 3 on our list is the facts are taste change.
Mm-hmm.
What you probably don't wear the same exact outfit that you wore 20 years ago. If you do, that's a completely different video you need to watch. But at the end of the day, our tastes do change. You may be someone that thought it would be an amazing idea to own that extremely blinged out, flashy watch, only to realize, 1, I don't feel comfortable walking out of the house with it. 2, I'm drawing attention to myself I don't want. Or 3, I'm sending the wrong vibe. I'm going to a business meeting where, my watch is glowing from the lights above me, maybe. Those are just some of the reasons why people fall out of love with watches that they have purchased. Very rarely do you fall back in love with the watch after you have completely fallen out of love with it. So that would be a time. Another very common thing is you've got guys maybe my age that lived through the 90s and early 2000s, and they really, really liked their, 50-inch diameter watches that they used to wear, and now they realize, if I wear that outside, I will have to laugh at myself because everybody else is going to be laughing at me. And so you definitely get some of that buyer's remorse, and times change. We all don't wear the same things for decade after decade. That's a good reason to probably part with the watch. So moving on to number 4, Zach, tell us what you think.
Sure. So, another one that you'll come across sometimes, as an AD is, well, my ex-wife bought me this Submariner, and that just moved on in life, and maybe your new relationship, that your significant other doesn't appreciate that very much, or whatever the case is. But just whatever the bad memory it is you just associate something that happened with that watch, and it bothers you every time you put it on. So, definitely something that I can appreciate needing to move away from that. That's, definitely a valid reason.
Absolutely. It could have been a gift that an old boss gave you that you're like, man, we did not leave on good terms, and I just really don't want the memories of that. So I think bad memories can can definitely be a reason to move on from a watch and possibly, move it on to the next person that won't have the same memories. They're going to enjoy that Rolex that your ex-wife bought you, in that example. And so, definitely a reason to move on. Number five would be career change. Well, Rob, what do you mean career change? Well, I've got a real good friend of mine. He's actually my mechanic. Well, he used to be in the financial world. So he went in every day wearing a suit in the financial world, selling stocks and life insurance and that whole world. And he said, I was just sitting there one day and realized I am out of place. I'm good at what I do. I understand it, but the suit and tie is just not for me. Well, in his heart, he really wanted to be a mechanic. That's what he was really good at. And he decided to dive all in on being a mechanic. Well, the same watches he could have worn in the financial world probably are not going to be the best choices for swapping transmissions out, right? And changing oil.
You mean you don't change oil in your Calatrava?
I do not. I do not. That would be because I don't have one. That would be the first reason. The second reason, you do not want me working on your vehicle. That would be number two. But yeah, it's simply as, he could not wear those. So he wears a much different watch today. He wears watches that he can beat and bang up. And honestly, he knows he's going to destroy those watches being a mechanic today. So it's a different watch for him today. Okay, so we have sped through five of them. What is number six, Zach?
So sixth is, well, I've got a watch box with 10 spots, and I have to make some room. So I think you and I are both jealous of people who actually have the ability to do this. I probably have a whole lot more free money to spend than we do. But
Yes, true.
you know, uh, again, or that in and out rule. That's what it turns into is, okay, I've got 10. I want to purchase number 11. Which one's coming out of the collection? And, again, it's honestly, it shows decent amount of financial responsibility compared to what some of us do. But, that's definitely another option that can come into play.
My thoughts about another watch box. It's very simple. If you've got a 10 watch box, that's not enough. Why not have a second 10? Just joking. It really is, and that goes across the field. Whether back in the day when I was into fishing a lot, the guys would do that. Their rod holders only held so many, and if a new one came in, one had to go out. You get a lot in car collectors. Hey, I have a 4-car garage. If I have a fifth car, one of them has to be sold. That is definitely not a bad idea. The one thing that I admire about those people, and I am definitely not one of them, I wish I was, my wife definitely wishes I was, is it forces you to pick the watches that you are definitely going to wear or have that real sentimental value. You know, maybe it's a difference between, hey, my dad gave me this Rolex, to some distant relative I inherited from, and I don't even know the guy. You're probably going to pick the dad way over the other one. So it forces you to pick the watches that fit your lifestyle, fit your likings, and have the most sentimental value to you. So there's nothing wrong with that at all. That is definitely a number six, meaning if you got one more watch that's going in the box, you got to sell one of them. So that's definitely a place for that. So our seventh and final one, Zach, talk us through it.
So, just lack of wrist time in general. You're not wearing that watch enough. You know, you've moved on and you're collecting, and maybe it's a $500 watch, which is still a great watch,
Yep.
but at the end of the day, you're wearing, $10,000, $15,000 watches on a regular basis, and you just don't find yourself reaching for that less expensive one. Maybe it doesn't have the right movement or the right finish based on what your preferences are now. So, that's again something that could certainly spur parting with that watch. Maybe selling it isn't the right idea, depending on whether you can afford to do that or not. But
Right.
at the end of the day, just not getting wrist time, and it would be better off with somebody else.
It happens for a lot of different reasons. It definitely happens for what you're talking about. I found myself in that. I not so long ago bought a watch I really, really wanted. It was a less expensive watch, and I have yet to leave the house wearing that watch. Got it sized. I really like the watch, but I just always grab something else. Now, ironically for me, I know where that watch will find a home, and so that's where I want to close this out today. So if it doesn't have wrist time, or maybe it's one of these other situations, maybe it's a bad memory or a career change or some of these other situations, if you can afford to, before you sell that watch to create money, if you aren't in need of money necessarily, it's just you don't have space for it, you just don't wear it, Look around your life and see if there's a son, a daughter, a parent, a brother, a coworker, an employee, somebody that would love that watch. Just because you don't wear that watch, right?
Hmm.
Just because you bought the 42 and realize anything over 38 you're not comfortable wearing, whatever the reason is, it could mean the world to somebody else. So if you have the opportunity to gift a watch to someone, and it's a watch that maybe it's not your taste anymore or not doesn't fit your lifestyle, it could be a grail watch for someone else. It could be something they treasure and just totally use it for what it's worth and use it for what it was made for and get a good 20 years out of enjoying it. To me, the gratitude of that is worth it if you can afford it. I totally understand there's cases and times that you cannot afford that. But before you sell that $500 watch for $300 and you really don't need the money, look around and see. Maybe there's a neighbor, maybe there's a kid in the neighborhood that doesn't have one that would be completely stoked with that watch. So
For sure.
think about those things. And that's another reason to keep boxing papers, just so you're giving them that whole package with links and whatever the
Exactly.
case may be.
So the first watch I ever parted with was a similar situation. I had a 42 millimeter khaki field auto on a strap, and that was my daily beater watch. Wore it to work every day at O'Reilly Auto Parts, and then later on at Batteries Plus Bulbs, and uh, it was on my wrist, changing car batteries in the parking lot, whatever else, and just knocking it around. And I replaced that beater watch with a Yachtmaster, which
Makes
probably
sense. Very similar. Very similar.
totally the thing to do with it, but hey, that's what I did. And that Hamilton stopped getting used. And I had a gentleman that I had met, would consider him a friend, that was going to Baylor, and young guy, probably 18 years old, and he was into watches, but just he's young, no way of really affording to do anything like that. And I sent him the watch, all the paperwork, the box,
That's
everything,
awesome.
and that made his day, and I'm sure probably a little bit longer than a day. And if I tried to sell that watch, maybe I would have gotten $300
Right.
for it, $400. I mean, it was pretty used, so maybe three, maybe two. But at the end of the day, we turned that into a positive for somebody else. And I
Absolutely.
probably hadn't worn that watch in maybe 3-ish months before I finally said, you know what, I need to pass this on. And that started it. And today I sit here with you, and I think I've gifted 43 watches in my life. I've never sold a single watch.
Yep. That's
Yep.
amazing. That's amazing. That's what I'm talking about. So we would love for you to like, share, subscribe, and in the comment section, tell us about a time that maybe you were forced to sell a watch, or maybe you had to sell a watch, or maybe it was just time for you to move on from that watch. And we definitely would love to hear about a time that you gifted a watch away. It's something important for Zach and I moving forward, definitely to gift watches when it's the right time and the right place. Thank you so much. We appreciate y'all watching. Talk to you soon.